These tourists ventured into South America's vibrant landscapes but were never seen again. From bustling cities to remote jungles, these cases will make you think twice about your next trip. This is 1 hour of tourists who went missing in South America. It was about 2:15 p.m. on May 1, 2021, when Magdalena Mukutui boarded a Cessna single-engine propeller plane with her 4 children, Leslie, Solani, Tien, and Christine. Departing from the Amazonian village of Araraquara, their destination was Bogota, a journey that held the promise of a new beginning. None of them had a single idea of what was awaiting them in the future. Mid-flight, tragedy struck as the plane encountered engine failure, hurtling towards the dense canopy of the Colombian rainforest below. The crash claimed the lives of Magdalena, the pilot, and another passenger, leaving the children orphaned and stranded amidst the unforgiving wilderness. For days, the Colombian military, aided by indigenous volunteers and specialized search teams, searched the thick rainforest in search of the missing children. The dense undergrowth, coupled with the constant threat of predators and armed groups, posed significant risks and challenges to the search efforts. With days and weeks passing by, the search intensified as rumors emerged, offering tantalizing clues of the children's whereabouts. Remains of fruit with small human bite marks, scattered nappies, and other remnants hinted at their survival, causing the search parties to be more determined to locate them soon enough. Despite the odds stacked against them, the children tapped into their own knowledge of survival, relying on skills that they didn't even know they had. Foraging for food, seeking shelter, and evading predators, they defied the odds through sheer determination and resourcefulness. While they were still missing, survival became a daily struggle. The eldest, Leslie, took charge, leading her siblings in the search for sustenance. They relied on their knowledge of edible fruits and seeds, and carefully navigated through the forest despite the dangers such as wild animals that may harm or attack them. Amidst the dense foliage, they found refuge beneath the towering trees, fashioning makeshift shelters from banana leaves and plastic tarps. The constant rain soaked their clothes, but they tried their best to stay positive, huddling together for warmth and protection against the potential threats of nature. Water, a vital necessity, was sourced from nearby streams and rivers. Though fraught with the risk of contamination, they had no choice but to drink, as their survival depended on quenching their thirst. Their bodies weakened from hunger and exhaustion as they survived in the huge rainforest. Yet they're still filled with hope that someone will find them soon. Then one day, a crackle of radios echoed through the forest, signaling a miracle. The children had been found. A collective sigh of relief swept across Colombia as images emerged of the emaciated yet resilient young children, wrapped in thermal blankets, surrounded by their rescuers. Their survival was nothing short of extraordinary. In the middle of the jungle, they had relied on their own skills and knowledge just to survive and stay alive in a dangerous place. With lots of terrifying things that could happen to them while they weren't yet found, they defied the odds. The rescue operation, aptly named Operation Hope, was a blessing to the children's remaining families. It showcased the efforts of the military personnel, indigenous guides, and volunteers who worked tirelessly to bring the children home. As they were airlifted to safety, the children's journey was far from over. In Bogota, they faced a new chapter, one of recovery and healing. Yet amidst the challenges that lay ahead, one thing remained certain. Their survival story had forever been imprinted in their minds, and would be such an amazing story to tell when they were all grown up. Today, as they undergo treatment and receive support, the children serve as an example that no matter how young or old you are, if you want to survive, you'll find ways to survive. What if they hadn't found shelter? This and other questions started to arise with the news of their disappearance and rescue. But one thing is certain. The children's story is one that we can call a miracle in modern times. The Harto family, Adam, Emily, and their 2 young daughters, were no strangers to adventure. After leaving their lives in California, they moved to South America in 2012, initially settling in Patagonia. From there, they embarked on an epic journey through the continent, documenting their travels on their blog, Our Open Road, which gained a substantial following of over 125,000 on Instagram. Their adventures brought them to Florianópolis, a picturesque island city on Brazil's southeast coast, where they enjoyed a vibrant mix of beach life and cultural exploration. By October 2017, the Hartos were ready for their next big adventure, a riverboat expedition through the Amazon rainforest. This leg of their journey was intended to be a deep dive into the heart of the world's largest rainforest, where they hoped to capture the untouched beauty of the Amazon and share it with their followers. They set off from the bustling port city of Belém, intending to travel to Macapa, a route that would take them through some of the most remote and breathtaking parts of the Amazon River Delta. On October 29, 2017, the family's journey took a terrifying turn. As their boat navigated the winding waterways near the town of Breves in Parastate, they were attacked by pirates. These river pirates are notorious in the region for preying on boats traveling through the vast and often lawless expanse of the Amazon. The pirates stripped the boat of valuables, taking personal belongings, cameras, and equipment, anything that could be sold or traded. After ransacking the ship, the pirates fled, leaving the vessel adrift and its passengers traumatized. In the immediate aftermath, the Hartos were nowhere to be found. News of the attack quickly reached local authorities, and a search effort was launched. The dense jungle and vast waterways made the search challenging, but the Brazilian police were determined to find the missing family. Back in the towns of Belém and Breves, news of the missing American family spread quickly. Local media reported on the incident, and there was a growing concern among the local and international populations. The story of the Hartos' disappearance captivated many, not just because of their social media following, but also because of the stark reminder of the dangers that can accompany even the most well-planned adventures. 3 days after the attack on November 1, 2017, there was a breakthrough. Brazilian authorities found the Hartos alive. They were discovered deep in the jungle, suffering from insect bites and scratches, but otherwise unharmed. The family was brought to safety, and their ordeal was finally over. It was September 1, 2014, when Edwin Chota, Leoncio, Quincima Melendez, Jorge Rios Perez, and Francisco Pinedo went on a trip through the dense Peruvian rainforest. Their mission was clear, and it was to confront the scourge of illegal logging that threatened their ancestral lands. The Amazonian rainforest, their home, was rich in hardwoods that commanded high prices on the global market. But for Chota and his companions, the forest held a deeper significance. It was their birthright, their legacy, and their lifeline. Their destination was the border of Brazil, where they intended to meet with Ashaninka villagers to discuss the growing concern of illegal logging. Chota, a fierce advocate for indigenous rights, had dedicated his life to protecting the land and the people who depended on it for their survival. But as they went deeper into the heart of the rainforest, they knew that their path was fraught with danger. The illegal loggers, driven by greed and fueled by corruption, would stop at nothing to protect their illicit trade. And so it was that on that day, as they approached the Ashaninka village, their worst fears were realized. A group of armed loggers intercepted them, their weapons poised and their intentions clear. In a desperate bid to defend themselves, Chota and his companions fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The sound of gunfire echoed through the forest afterwards. Chota and his companions lay lifeless, their bodies left to rot in the unforgiving embrace of the rainforest. Their death spread through the indigenous communities of the Amazon, casting a pall of grief and outrage over those who had looked to Chota as a champion of their cause. For the families of the victims, the pain was unbearable, their loved ones taken from them in the prime of their lives, their voices silenced for what they stood for. In the aftermath of the massacre, the Peruvian government was forced to confront the harsh realities of life in the rainforest. Corruption ran rampant, and the rule of law often seemed like a distant dream. But the deaths of Chota and his companions could not be ignored. They were a reminder of the dangers faced by those who dared to challenge the forces of greed and exploitation that threatened to overpower the Amazon. As the news of the killing spread, outrage swept across the globe. Environmental activists and human rights organizations condemned the violence, calling for justice for the victims and accountability for those responsible. The spotlight turned to Peru, where the struggle for justice in the Amazon took on new urgency. Justice began to take shape. 2 men were arrested in connection with the murders, marking a tentative step towards accountability. But for the families of the victims, the wounds remained raw, their cries for justice still loud. As the investigation unfolded, Reports emerged of pervasive corruption and violence in Peru's Amazonian rainforest. Death and corruption were rampant, with illegal logging and drug trafficking driving the local economy. But amid the darkness, there remained hope. The lives of Edwin Chota and his companions lived on in the hearts of those who refused to be silenced, their voices ringing out across the vast expanse of the rainforest. Their deaths had sparked a global outcry, shining a spotlight on the plight of indigenous communities and the urgent need for action. In 2013, 27-year-old Jamie Neal and her 25-year-old boyfriend Garrett Hand embarked on a backpacking adventure and cycling tour through Peru. Their journey, filled with the promise of exploration and discovery, took an unexpected and mysterious turn when they disappeared without a trace. The last known sighting of the couple was in Chalhuanca, a small town in the Peruvian Andes, where they were preparing to hike the famous Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. As days became weeks without communication from Neal and Hand, concern grew among their family and friends back home. The couple began their South American odyssey in late November or early December 2012. They chronicled their journey through frequent updates and photos on Facebook, capturing the essence of their adventure. Their posts depicted the breathtaking landscapes, diverse wildlife, and warm encounters with locals they met. These glimpses into their travels were eagerly followed by their friends and family, who lived vicariously through their experiences. On January 25, 2013, Neal and Hand posted their final update. Finally found Kraft mac and cheese in South America, stoked LOL. This lighthearted message, seemingly trivial at the time, would later be scrutinized as the last known communication from the couple. That same day, their social media activity ceased, and their credit card stopped being used. This abrupt silence raised immediate red flags for those close to them. Max Hunter, a friend of the couple, was among the first to notice their sudden disappearance. He pointed out that Neal and Hand had been consistent in their online updates, and their lack of communication was highly unusual. Concerned, he contacted their families, who quickly realized something was wrong. Hand's mother in particular grew increasingly worried after discovering that there had been no activity on her son's bank account since January 25th. The alarmed families reported Neal and Hand missing to the Peruvian authorities, who initiated a search operation. However, the vast and rugged terrain of the Andes and limited resources made the search exceedingly tricky. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months with no sign of the missing couple. The search continued, but hope dwindled as the months dragged on without any leads. Back in California, Hand's sister, Larkin McGowan, made a heartfelt plea for her brother's return, expressing the family's anguish and desperate need to return him home. The families held on to hope, clinging to the belief that Neal and Hand were out there, waiting to be found. Despite the relentless efforts of search teams and the anguish of their loved ones, Neal and Hand remained missing. The story of their disappearance gained international attention, with media outlets picking up on the mystery of the American couple who had vanished in the Peruvian Andes. Theories and speculations abounded, but none provided any concrete answers. For 3 long years, the fate of Jamie Neal and Garrett Hand remained unknown. Then, in July 2016, a remarkable breakthrough occurred. The couple was discovered alive and safe in a remote region of Peru. They had been living with an indigenous community in the Andes Mountains, having lost their way during their hiking expedition. Disoriented and unable to find their way back, they sought refuge with the local community, who took them in and cared for them. Neal and Hand were found on the Napo River at Angoteros. They were spotted on a slow-moving boat, making their way to the border between Ecuador and Peru. According to Miguel Antezana, the communications director of Peru's Foreign Commerce and Tourism Ministry, the couple would soon have access to a phone to contact their families. The news of their discovery brought immense relief and joy to their loved ones, who had been waiting anxiously for any word of their safety. Upon reaching the border, Neal and Hand were greeted by police officers dispatched to meet them. The couple, unaware of the extensive search efforts and media attention surrounding their disappearance, were taken aback by the barrage of questions. Confused, they eventually asked what was going on. It was then that the police informed them that they had been considered missing persons for the past 3 years. Juliana Kupska, just a teenager at 17, lived through a terrifying experience on Christmas Eve back in 1971. She was on Lanza Flight 508, a flight headed from Lima to Panguana, a trip she took with her mother Maria. Little did they know their trip would turn into a nightmare. The day started like any other, with excitement for the holiday season ahead. Julianne and her mother boarded the flight in Lima, eager to reach their destination in time for Christmas. Despite her father's concerns about the flight's safety, they decided to go ahead with their plans. As they settled into their seats on the plane, Julianne couldn't shake a feeling of unease. There were whispers among the passengers about thunderstorms and turbulence, making the atmosphere inside the cabin tense. Julianne and her mother were seated near the rear of the aircraft, watching nervously as dark clouds gathered outside the windows. The anticipation of the journey ahead was mixed with a sense of foreboding. Then, without warning, the plane hit severe turbulence. Lightning flashed, causing the passengers to feel frightened. The plane shook violently, causing panic to spread among those on board. Julianne clung to her mother, their hands tightly intertwined as the chaos unfolded around them. Despite the fear coursing through her veins, she found peace and calm in her mother's presence. Her words of reassurance seemed to be the only thing calming her down at that very moment. But the calmness turned into horror when disaster struck. A blinding flash of lightning lit up the sky as the plane plummeted from the sky, its wings engulfed in flames. Julianne felt her stomach lurch as the ground rushed up to meet them. The next thing she knew, Julianne was waking up amidst the wreckage of the plane, now deep within the Amazon rainforest. Her head throbbed with pain, and she struggled to make sense of her surroundings. The cabin lay in ruins around her, twisted metal and debris strewn everywhere. Despite her injuries, Julianne found herself still strapped to her seat, the only intact structure in the wreckage. She searched frantically for her mother, her heart pounding with fear as she realized she was alone. In the days that followed, Julianne faced a desperate struggle for survival. With no food, water, or shelter, she relied on her instincts and the survival skills she had learned from her parents, both renowned zoologists. She foraged for food, using her knowledge of the rainforest to find edible plants and fruits to sustain her dwindling strength. Each day was a battle against hunger, exhaustion, and the scorching heat of the jungle. As the days passed, Julianne clung to the hope that help would come. She tried to attract attention by shouting and waving makeshift flags, but her cries went unanswered. Meanwhile, search parties were combing the jungle in search of survivors. But the dense foliage and terrain made their task difficult, hampering their efforts to locate Julianne amidst the vast expanse of greenery. Despite the challenges she faced, Julianne refused to give up hope. She clung to the belief that her father would never stop looking for her, that he would find her no matter what. Then, on the 11th day of her ordeal, Julianne's prayers were answered. She stumbled upon a logging camp where she was discovered by local fishermen who provided her with much-needed assistance. Following her rescue, Julianne was reunited with her father and received medical attention for her injuries. Her remarkable survival story captured the world's attention, sparking discussions about aviation safety and wilderness survival. Now, Julianne is a biologist and is married. Her incredible tale of survival has inspired numerous artistic works, including books and films, that portray how she miraculously survived two life-threatening challenges: a plane crash and the perils of the Amazon rainforest. Carla Valpeos was a woman driven by an unyielding desire to explore the world, despite the challenges posed by her degenerative eye disease. By age 35, she had visited 20 of the 22 countries on her bucket list, determined to see as much as possible before her world went completely dark. Blind in her right eye and partially blind in her left, Carla was aware that her vision would continue to deteriorate, but she refused to let this stop her. Each destination was not just a place to visit, but an opportunity to immerse herself in the local culture and history. Carla's travels were marked by remarkable experiences and a deep engagement with the places she visited. She delved into ancient history in Egypt, studying the pyramids and the region's rich cultural heritage. In Yemen, she volunteered, contributing her time and skills to help local communities. In Papua New Guinea, she taught English to school children, sharing her knowledge and connecting with the students. As someone fluent in English, Spanish, Arabic, and Braille, Carla navigated different cultures easily and gracefully. The opportunity to visit Peru arose when her friend Alicia Garcia Steele was invited to a wedding in Lima on December 2, 2018. For Carla, the timing was perfect. She had always wanted to explore Peru, and this was her chance. Her mother helped her choose a navy blue dress and a pair of beige ballerina flats for the wedding. Excited for the adventure ahead, Carla joined Alicia on the journey. After a bus ride and 2 plane trips from Detroit, Carla and Alicia arrived in Lima, the bustling capital of Peru. They were just in time to assist with the last-minute wedding preparations. The wedding was joyous, with the friends dancing all night at the reception. Carla's birthday, which fell during their trip, was celebrated on the beach, adding another layer of special memories to the adventure. For the final stretch of their 2-week trip, Carla planned to travel alone to hike Machu Picchu, despite Alicia's concerns about her going alone. Despite her limited vision, Carla valued her independence and was confident in navigating new places. On the day Carla left for her Machu Picchu trip, Alicia grew increasingly anxious as the hours passed without hearing from her friend. When Carla finally replied after more than 12 hours, she apologized, citing a lack of Wi-Fi and a packed itinerary as reasons for her delayed response. While relieved to hear from Carla, Alicia couldn't shake a sense of unease. Over the next few days, Carla's friends and relatives tried to reach her but received no response. Their concern escalated when Carla missed her flight back to the United States on December 15, 2018. Her family believed she had gone missing since December 12th, when Carla was last seen in Pisac, a village known for its archaeological park. Security footage showed her at the park entrance, but after that there was no trace of her. Upon Valpeos's disappearance, her family immediately raised the alarm, prompting her father, Carlos Valpeos, to travel to Peru to aid in the search efforts. Unfortunately, the initial response from Peruvian authorities was delayed, but after persistent advocacy from her family, her case was eventually classified as a potential homicide. Carlos Valpeos, a 71-year-old contractor from the Texas Hill Country, left behind his old life and boarded a plane to find his daughter. He brought only a backpack, unsure how long he would be away from home. Despite his relentless determination, the toll of the search was evident in his weary eyes and noticeable weight loss. When he spoke of his daughter, his deep, husky voice often broke into sobs. Carlos traveled to almost a dozen small towns in the remote region of the Peruvian Andes, known as the Sacred Valley, for nearly 6 months. He carried flyers with his daughter's face printed on them and walked from house to house, interviewing anyone who might have seen her. Living off his savings, contributions from his son, and donations from a GoFundMe campaign, he stayed in small hotel rooms and tried to minimize his spending on food and toiletries. Carlos's search took him across mountains, vast cornfields, and remote caves. He developed relationships with local police and even embedded himself with them to search suspected drug houses. Alongside his son, he tracked down people who had met Carla before she vanished, found the backpack she left behind at a hostel, requested surveillance footage, and tried to obtain cell phone tower data, only to discover that previous police requests had never been completed. Despite ongoing efforts and relentless advocacy from her loved ones, including appeals for greater involvement from the U.S. government, Carla Valpeos's fate remains a mystery more than 4 years later. Her family suspects she may have been subjected to violence, met a tragic end, and possibly been buried in the mountainous terrain of the Sacred Valley. They continue to pursue leads and advocate for justice, but her whereabouts remain unknown. March 21, 1998. Amy Lynn Bradley, a 23-year-old recent graduate from Petersburg, Virginia, was on a Caribbean cruise with her family aboard Royal Caribbean's Rhapsody of the Seas. Excited about her trip, Amy was eager to pick up her newly adopted bulldog Daisy and start her new job after moving into a new apartment. The ship left San Juan, Puerto Rico, heading to Aruba and then to Curaçao, Netherlands, Antilles. On the night of March 23rd, Amy went to the ship's disco with her brother Brad and other passengers and crew. They enjoyed dancing and socializing. Around 1 a.m., Brad saw Amy for the last time before they went their separate ways. At about 5:30 a.m. on March 24th, Amy's father, Ron Bradley, saw her asleep on their cabin's balcony. When he woke up again around 6 a.m., Amy was gone, but her shoes were left behind while her lighter and cigarettes were missing. Alarmed, Ron searched the ship but found no trace of Amy. Ron then woke his wife, Iva, and their son, Brad, and they contacted the ship's crew. Despite their urgent request to make an announcement and prevent anyone from leaving the ship, the gangway was lowered, and passengers disembarked in Curaçao. An announcement about Amy's disappearance was finally made at 7:50 a.m., but by then, many passengers had already left the ship. The crew searched common areas but didn't thoroughly check passenger and staff rooms, leaving the Bradley family devastated and frustrated. Over the next 5 days, Royal Caribbean staff and the Netherlands Antilles Coast Guard searched the ship and nearby waters, but no trace of Amy was found. Despite being a strong swimmer and trained lifeguard, it was unlikely she had fallen overboard and drowned close to shore. The search ended on March 29th, and Amy was declared dead 12 years later, though her body was never found. Amy Lynn Bradley's case remains a perplexing mystery. Numerous rumors and alleged sightings have surfaced over the years but remain unconfirmed. Some passengers claim to have seen a woman matching Amy's description heading to the top deck on the morning of March 24th, while others saw her with an unidentified ship employee. Amy's mother, Iva, recalled crew members showing unusual attention towards Amy during the cruise. One crew member even offered to take Amy to a restaurant in Aruba, which made her uncomfortable. Additionally, photos of Amy taken by the ship's photographer had vanished the night before she disappeared. In 1999, a U.S. Navy sailor reported seeing a woman in a Curaçao brothel who claimed to be Amy Bradley, saying she was being held against her will. The sailor didn't report the sighting immediately due to fear of disciplinary action for being in a brothel. He came forward after retiring and seeing Amy's photo in a magazine. In 2005, a woman named Judy Maurer claimed to have seen Amy in a department store bathroom in Barbados. Amy was allegedly with 3 men who threatened her before dragging her away. Maurer said Amy told her she was from Virginia. One of the most compelling alleged sightings occurred in 2005, when the Bradleys received an email with photos of a lingerie-clad woman named Jazz, posted on a website advertising all-inclusive erotic vacations in the Caribbean. The woman looked strikingly like Amy. An independent forensics expert confirmed the photo was a perfect match for Amy. Despite these potential leads, Amy Lynn Bradley's whereabouts remain unknown. The FBI offers a reward of up to $25,000 for information leading to her recovery and the identification, arrest, and conviction of those responsible for her disappearance. Age-progressed photos of what Amy might look like today have been released. Amy is described as a white woman with short brown hair, green eyes, weighing 120 pounds, and standing 5 feet 6 inches tall. She has several distinctive tattoos: a Tasmanian devil spinning a basketball on her shoulder, the sun on her lower back, a Chinese symbol on her right ankle, and a gecko on her navel. She also has a navel ring. As the years pass, the mystery of Amy Lynn Bradley's disappearance continues to puzzle investigators and haunt her family. The case remains open, and the search for answers continues. It was June 8, 2022, a day like any other in the Amazon rainforest. But amidst this seemingly ordinary day in the forest, a mystery was unfolding, a mystery that would captivate the world and leave 2 families desperate for answers. Veteran British journalist Dom Phillips and his Brazilian guide Bruno Pereira went on a trip to the Amazon. Their mission was clear: to investigate the illegal logging activities that threatened the fragile ecosystem of the rainforest. Bringing cameras and notebooks, they set out into the unknown, unaware of the dangers that awaited them. In May 2022, Dom and Bruno set off from Atalaya do Norte, a riverside town that served as their gateway to the Javari Reserve. Their destination was the remote Lago do Jaburu region, where reports of illegal logging had surfaced. Despite the risks, their determination spurred them onward. As they delved deeper into the rainforest, tensions began to mount. Reports of armed men patrolling the area were heard. Threats loomed around them, indicating that danger may not be too far from them. Yet, undeterred, they pressed on, driven by a shared commitment to justice. Their trip took an unexpected turn when they made a stopover in the community of São Rafael. Bruno had arranged a meeting with a local leader to discuss indigenous patrols, but the leader failed to show up. However, they continued towards Atalaya do Norte, their next destination. It was near the community of São Gabriel that they were last seen, their boat gliding silently down the river. Witnesses watched in silence as they disappeared around a bend, unaware of the events that would soon unfold. Little did they know it would be the last time anyone would see them alive. Concern grew among Dom and Bruno's families. When they failed to arrive at their destination by the expected time, alarm bells rang. Search parties were dispatched, but the vastness of the rainforest made their task daunting. Every moment counted. Every lead was crucial in the race against time. And still, there was no sign of Dom and Bruno. The Brazilian authorities mobilized their resources, deploying helicopters and boats in a desperate bid to find them. Yet they were still missing and nowhere to be found. What if they had stumbled upon something they weren't meant to see? What if their disappearance was no accident? As news of their disappearance spread, the world watched in horror. Media outlets clamored for updates, while activists rallied in solidarity with the missing men. From London to Rio, vigils were held, prayers offered for their safe return. Days passed, and still there was no sign of Dom and Bruno. In June 2022, a day like any other turned grim when Brazilian authorities discovered the bodies of two men buried deep in the heart of the rainforest. Their identities were confirmed as Dom Phillips and Bruno Pereira, followed by the announcement of a suspect in connection with their disappearance. As the world mourned their loss, the memories of Dom and Bruno lived on. Their courage to face danger inspired others to speak out, to stand up for what they believed in. Their commitment to justice became a rallying cry for press freedom and environmental protection. Neha Mala, a 40-year-old American tourist, embarked on a trip to Argentina, eager to explore the renowned hiking trails of the El Chaltén area in Santa Cruz province. Arriving as part of a group, Neha decided to take advantage of a free day to undertake a solo excursion. With a keen sense of adventure, she set her sights on hiking the Loma del Plig Tumbado Trail and trekking through the national park. On November 28, 2023, Neha was last seen crossing a bridge over the Fitzroy River in El Chaltén. This picturesque region, known for its rugged beauty and challenging trails, attracted outdoor enthusiasts from around the world. As she ventured deeper into the wilderness, the stunning landscapes and the serenity of nature must have been a profound experience for her. However, when Neha failed to return by the expected time, concerns quickly arose. The alarm was raised and an extensive search effort was initiated. Over 160 members of the Argentine Army Brigade, along with local authorities and volunteers, mobilized to search for the missing tourist. The challenging terrain and unpredictable weather conditions made the search effort complex. The search and rescue teams combed the area for 4 days, scouring trails, riverbanks, and remote regions of Los Glaciares National Park. Despite their best efforts, the search ended tragically when Neha Mala's body was found in Laguna de las Melizas, a remote and beautiful lake within the park. The discovery brought a heartbreaking conclusion to the search, confirming the tragic end to her hiking expedition in the picturesque Patagonian region. While the search operation successfully located Neha, the circumstances surrounding her demise remained unclear. The authorities did not provide additional details regarding the causes or specific events leading to her death. The lack of information left many questions unanswered, adding to the sorrow and grief felt by her family, friends, and fellow travelers. Neha's disappearance and subsequent death were a sad reminder of the inherent risks associated with solo hiking in remote and challenging environments. The El Chaltén area, while breathtakingly beautiful, posed significant dangers to those unprepared for its rugged terrain and rapidly changing weather conditions. Neha's tragic end underscored the importance of safety precautions and preparedness when venturing into wilderness areas. In the wake of this tragedy, El Chaltén and the broader community of hikers and outdoor enthusiasts mourned the loss of Neha Mala. Tributes and messages of condolence poured in from around the world, reflecting her story's profound impact on many. Her family, grappling with the sudden and devastating loss, found some solace in the outpouring of support and the knowledge that she was found. The search for Neha highlighted the dedication and bravery of the search and rescue teams who tirelessly worked to locate her. Though ultimately ending in tragedy, their efforts demonstrated various organizations and individuals' commitment and cooperation in responding to emergencies in remote areas. The operation also highlighted the need for enhanced safety measures and better communication for solo travelers in such regions. Colonel Percy Fawcett, along with his son Jack and their friend Riley Rimmel, embarked on a daring expedition into the depths of the Amazon rainforest in April 1925. Their goal? To uncover the secrets of the fabled city of Z, a legendary civilization rumored to exist deep within the uncharted wilderness. Before they set off, Fawcett carefully planned their route, looking over maps and consulting with indigenous guides. They packed essentials for the journey ahead, anticipating the challenges that lay in store. Excitement can be felt as they prepared to go on their adventure, unaware of the trials that awaited them. As they went into the jungle, the air thickened with humidity, and the sounds of wildlife surrounded them. Mosquitoes buzzed incessantly, and the dense foliage seemed to close in around them. But Fawcett, an experienced explorer, pressed on with determination, leading his companions deeper into the unknown. Their progress was slow and grueling, with each step fraught with obstacles. Thick undergrowth impeded their path, and treacherous terrain tested their endurance. Despite the hardships, they remained undeterred, and the only thing that mattered was their desire to discover something. Communication with the outside world became increasingly sporadic as they ventured further into the rainforest. Letters sent back home offered glimpses into their journey, but as time passed, the letters grew fewer and farther apart. Concern mounted among their loved ones as the days passed with no word from the expedition. In late May, they reached Dead Horse Camp, a pivotal point in their journey. Here they restocked their supplies and prepared to push deeper into the jungle. But as they went into uncharted territory, they encountered unforeseen challenges that tested their resolve. They pressed on, battling exhaustion and the relentless heat of the Amazon. Hunger gnawed at their stomachs, and fatigue weighed heavy on their bodies. Yet they pushed forward, driven by their determination to uncover the truth behind the mysterious city of Z. They faced rushing rivers, impenetrable swamps, and towering cliffs that blocked their progress. But Fawcett, with his determination to discover something, led his companions onward, refusing to be deterred by the challenges that they faced. Their journey was not without danger. They encountered venomous snakes, ferocious predators, and hostile tribes who viewed them with suspicion. Yet they still continued. As the months passed, hope began to fade for the expedition's safe return. Search parties were dispatched into the rainforest, but the vastness of the jungle made their task nearly impossible. They completely vanished into the Amazon, leaving no trace of their whereabouts. Rumors swirled about their fate. Some speculated that they had fallen victim to hostile tribes, while others believed they had succumbed to illness or starvation. But without concrete evidence, the truth remained a mystery. What if they had stumbled upon the ruins of an ancient civilization, hidden deep within the jungle? What if they had uncovered secrets that were never meant to be revealed? What if their disappearance was not the result of natural causes, but something far more sinister? These questions haunted those who followed the case, fueling speculation and intrigue. The disappearance of Percy Fawcett and his companions remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century, and inspired countless other explorers to venture more into the jungle. Percy Fawcett's story also inspired countless works of art, such as books, making his story the most mysterious case in the face of exploration. August Reiger, a son, brother, and high school valedictorian, is known to many as the Oklahoma man who vanished on a trail 3,000 miles from home. A promising young man, Reiger graduated in 2013 from the Klassen School of Advanced Studies with plans to attend the University of Oklahoma. His life took a tragic turn when he disappeared along a trail in the Ecuadorian resort town of Banos while on vacation with his family. The incident occurred while Reiger was hiking with his family on June 16, 2013. He had gone ahead of his younger brother and parents, Chris and Randa Reiger, on a trail that took a few hours to complete. About 10 minutes behind him, when the family reached a pavilion at the top of the mountain, Reiger was nowhere to be found. He was not at the hotel when the family returned, and it was reported that he had no money or passport. Local authorities promptly began the search for Reiger. The Ecuadorian military was called in, and the U.S. State Department got involved. Given the visibility of the trail from their hotel, situated in a tourist area and not isolated, the family believed it was unlikely that Reiger had gotten lost. Initially, authorities treated the case as a kidnapping, but no ransom request was ever issued. Interpol distributed photos of Reiger throughout Latin America to locate him. Banos, a mountain town and tourist destination located along the western coast of Ecuador, south of the border region and the capital city of Quito, is considered relatively safe. While Americans have been kidnapped in the northern area near the Colombian border, such incidents are rare in Banos. Despite this, Reiger's disappearance raised alarm and garnered international attention. One reported sighting suggested that Reiger had been seen in the back of a pickup truck headed toward the country's Amazon region, but this lead did not pan out. Subsequent reports of sightings provided some hope, but investigators could not substantiate these claims. The case continued to perplex authorities, family members, and the general public. The disappearance of August Reiger captured international attention, with his family making appearances on television programs to plead for information and assistance. President Rafael Correa of Ecuador even pledged to prioritize the case for his administration. A Facebook page dedicated to the search effort garnered posts from visitors and supporters, maintaining a sense of community and ongoing concern. Despite extensive searches, unconfirmed sightings, and numerous theories, no conclusive evidence regarding Reiger's fate has emerged. A retired police investigator speculated that Reiger might have encountered a tragic mishap while hiking, suggesting that his remains might be located nearby. However, this hypothesis lacks concrete evidence and has not led to any discoveries. Reiger's disappearance remains a haunting mystery, not only to his family and those who follow true crime stories, but also to professional investigators. The lack of clues and the seemingly inexplicable nature of his disappearance have left many baffled and desperate for answers. The case highlights the challenges and complexities of searching for missing persons in remote areas, where terrain and environmental factors complicate rescue efforts. The impact of Reiger's disappearance on his family has been profound. Chris, Randa Reiger, and their younger son have been left to navigate a reality filled with uncertainty and grief. Their search for August has been relentless, driven by a desperate hope that some new piece of information might emerge to explain what happened to their beloved son and brother. The emotional toll has been immense as they grapple with the unknown and the constant reminder of their loss. August Reiger's story also underscores the importance of safety and preparedness when embarking on outdoor adventures, particularly in unfamiliar terrain. While the circumstances of his disappearance remain unclear, it reminds hikers and travelers to take precautions, stay aware of their surroundings, and ensure they are adequately equipped for the challenges they may face. As the years pass, the search for August Reiger continues. His family remains committed to finding answers, driven by love and a refusal to give up hope. The Banos community and supporters from around the world continue to follow the case, offering support and solidarity to the Reiger family. August Reiger's disappearance remains a poignant and unresolved mystery. The lack of closure is a heavy burden for his family, who continue to advocate for him and seek the truth. His legacy, marked by his achievements, dreams, and the deep love of his family, endures despite the uncertainty surrounding his fate. On November 18, 2022, Thomas Karstens Jr. arrived in Guyana, South America, for a much-awaited 7-day fishing trip. Along with other foreign nationals, he proceeded via private chartered aircraft to Apoteri village in North Rupununi, where the expedition was set to begin. Within the first few days, Thomas experienced incredible success, catching a 100-plus pound jow catfish, which he had always craved. In addition to this impressive catch, he reeled in a red-tailed catfish and many other Amazonian fish. Towards the end of the fishing expedition, Thomas decided to try his luck elsewhere. He and another traveler hired a small-sized boat and headed upstream in the Essequibo River, searching for spots where they could make more great catches. Nearly 2 hours into their journey upstream, they encountered a fast-flowing and turbulent part of the river. While the ship captain was trying to navigate the challenging waters, their 15-horsepower outboard engine suddenly experienced a mechanical malfunction and switched off. This unexpected failure left them at the mercy of the rapids, causing the boat to drift uncontrollably downstream. At the same time, water began to flood the boat due to its small size. This situation caused Thomas to panic, and he impulsively jumped into the water, clinging to the side of the boat in an attempt to stabilize it, or simply out of sheer desperation. However, when he tried to get back into the boat, his body weight caused more water to flood in, further destabilizing the vessel. It was at this critical point that the boat captain and the other traveler realized they had no choice but to abandon the vessel. They promptly jumped into the river and began swimming towards a small island roughly 7 meters away from where they had entered the water. They expected Thomas to do the same, but for reasons unknown, he did not. Within moments, the boat took on more water and sank, causing Thomas to go underwater. Sadly, he did not resurface, most likely due to the intensity of the river currents. Thomas and the other members of his fishing party were expected to return to the resort where they were lodged later that evening. However, when they did not return or make contact via any other means, a search party was sent out to look for them. The search party subsequently located the 2 surviving men on the island and assisted them in returning to the resort. During this time, the survivors informed the search party about what happened to Thomas. The next day, Another search party was dispatched to the location where the two surviving men claimed the tragic incident occurred. After an extensive search, Thomas's body was discovered approximately 5 kilometers away from the incident area, already in an early stage of decomposition. His body was carefully recovered and examined for any signs of violence, but none were found. Subsequently, Thomas was taken to a nearby health center, where he was officially declared deceased before being transported to the regional mortuary. He was then buried in Georgetown, Guyana at a local cemetery. It was later discovered by the authorities that the tour Thomas had registered for the fishing expedition was not approved by the Guyana Tourism Authority. This discovery prompted the Minister of Tourism to issue a statement advising tourists to verify that their tours and tour operators are officially approved by the Guyana Tourism Authority. The statement also emphasized that unapproved tours may lack essential safety systems and protocols, potentially compromising the safety and well-being of participants. By the age of 29, Boris Weisfeiler had already earned a PhD and had achieved the rank of professor at the University of Pennsylvania in his late 30s. But he wasn't just about the books. He loved the outdoors and often embarked on solo hiking expeditions. In December 1984, Boris decided he needed a break from his academic work and the Pennsylvania snow. Speaking with his sister, Olga Weisfeiler, he mentioned his plans to head south to enjoy the summer weather. He eventually chose Chile as his destination, and on September 25th he arrived in the country for a 10-day solo hiking trip along the mountains near the border between Chile and Argentina. At the end of his trip, Boris was expected to take a bus from the small southern town of San Fabian to Santiago, and then fly back to the United States to resume teaching at Pennsylvania State University. However, he never arrived at the location as anticipated. Concerned by his prolonged absence, his family reported him missing through the embassy, prompting a police inquiry into his disappearance. Several weeks later, Boris's backpack was found near the Nubel River. His passport, return ticket, undisclosed cash, and some other personal items were missing from the backpack. A further search of the river with the aid of Chilean Navy frogmen turned up nothing. On March 6th, the inquest into his death was closed, with the Chilean courts ruling that Boris might have died by accidental drowning. Boris's family never accepted the official finding. They continued to look for an explanation for Boris's disappearance, spearheaded by the efforts of Boris's sister Olga. After a few years, Olga finally discovered something sinister about her brother's disappearance. A Department of State official informed her that a commission set up by the new Chilean government had listed her brother's case as an unresolved case of human rights abuse. Upon getting this information, Olga then pushed for more answers, now even more convinced that her brother did not die from drowning. However, she only received curt replies that she was dissatisfied with. In the year 2000, the U.S. declassified several documents that finally showed that they knew more about Boris's disappearance than they had earlier disclosed to Olga. One eyewitness account particularly struck Olga among the various scenarios it contained about Boris's fate. The witness described how Boris was washing something in the Nubel River when a police patrol, acting on a tip about a foreigner in the area, intercepted him. Without the required permit to be in the area, Boris was arrested and taken to a German enclave known as Colonia Dignidad, led by former Nazi Paul Schaefer. At Colonia Dignidad, Boris's calm demeanor made his captors suspect he was a spy accustomed to handling difficult situations. They tortured him and kept him in animal-like conditions. The same eyewitness later appeared on a radio show, revealing that after months of savage interrogation, Boris was executed with a shot to the nape of his neck. At this point, it was clear that Boris was dead, brutally murdered simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The eyewitness reports later prompted a more detailed investigation by the Chilean and U.S. governments into Boris's case. This investigation unearthed that all members of the Army patrol that captured Boris were transferred to other posts in the wake of earlier inquiries into Boris's disappearance. It also revealed that all the carabineros involved in the original search party were relocated across the country, and the leading officer in the search retired from service, seemingly to perpetuate a cover-up. On August 21, 2012, a Chilean judge ordered the arrest of 8 former police and military officials suspected of involvement in his disappearance. They faced charges of aggravated kidnapping and complicity in the crime. However, the eventual ruling did not go as Boris's family had hoped. The judge reclassified the case as a common crime, subject to a time limit for prosecution. This distinction, unlike a human rights violation, allowed the statute of limitations to expire and meant that all 8 suspects were ultimately free. It also effectively ended any possibility of holding those responsible accountable for Boris's disappearance. In January 2024, Dakarai Earl Cobb had been staying in a room in the Santa Lucia neighborhood, located in the west of Medellin, Colombia. The room was part of a larger building owned by a local family who also resided there. According to the owners, they had rented the room to him as a favor, since he had approached them with an urgent need for temporary accommodation. They agreed to let him stay for just 1 month, during which Dakarai was expected to find more permanent housing. The owners also noted that he mostly kept to himself, and they hardly saw him except for the occasional greeting in passing. At the beginning of February, the owners checked on him to remind him that his stay had elapsed. However, when they knocked, no one opened the door for them. They returned 2 days later, on February 5th, out of concern that he had been missing for some days. But upon entering the room with their own keys, they found Dakarai dead on his bed. It appeared that he had been deceased for quite a while, although they were unsure of when exactly it happened. The discovery left the owners in distress, and they quickly contacted local authorities about the situation. Local authorities arrived promptly and transported Dakarai's body to legal medicine for forensic work to establish the cause of his death. An investigation was then launched into the incident, initially leading to speculation that it might have been a case of theft gone wrong. However, subsequent interviews with the tenants in the building provided insights that theft was not involved. As the investigation into Dakarai's death continued, it was uncovered that his demise was one of 4 to occur within Medellin within 4 days of his discovery. 3 other people were found in similarly suspicious circumstances. 2 of the individuals were reported to have fallen from the floors of their rooms under mysterious conditions, while the 3rd was found dead in a hotel room without any signs of violence or struggle. These deaths, happening in such close succession, prompted a deeper investigation to determine if there was any connection between them or if they were part of a larger, more sinister pattern. While the investigations were ongoing, tourism in the area declined as people became increasingly worried about their safety. To quell these fears and reassure both residents and visitors, Medellín's Safety Secretary, Manuel Villamejia, announced a plan of action aimed at tackling issues such as sexual exploitation, human trafficking, micro-trafficking, and theft, which he suspected might have played a part in the recent deaths. He also issued a stern warning to tourists. "We will inform tourists about the type of tourism we want to nurture and impose strict measures against those who threaten safety. We invite tourists to enjoy our gastronomy and business opportunities, but repudiate commercial sexual exploitation. Foreigners involved in criminal activities will be confronted as we focus on promoting responsible tourism in the city." Ultimately, no suspects were arrested in relation to Dakarai's death, leaving the circumstances surrounding his demise shrouded in mystery to this date. In 2017, 22-year-old Jesse Clint Galganov graduated from Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut, USA, with a 4.0 out of 4.0. He had plans to attend medical school, but decided to defer them in favor of going on an 8-month travel adventure through South America and Asia. His journey began on September 24th with a flight from Montreal to Lima, Peru. He soaked up the city for a few days at the Loki Hostel before embarking on an 8-hour overnight bus ride to Huaraz, arriving on September 28th. After settling into a backpacker hostel, Jesse spent the day preparing for a 4-day trek on the Santa Cruz Trail. He also told his mom about the trek, mentioning he might be out of contact until his return. The next day, Jesse started his trail as he had planned. A day later, he reached the Tolipampa camp late and shared his campsite with a pair of French hikers. These new companions would later claim they had found Jesse's behavior concerning. He reportedly mentioned getting lost or disoriented on the trail and complained of headaches and diarrhea. However, the following morning they found him in better spirits. Together, they had breakfast before Jesse continued on his trail. The next confirmed sighting of Jesse was during the afternoon of October 1st. He was said to have met up with a Czech hiking group near Punta Union Pass and asked them for water. After his interaction with them, Jesse set off on his own again, never to be seen again. Initially, Jesse's mom wasn't fazed when her son didn't reach out after his 4-day hike. She figured he might have chosen a longer trail and would contact her when he arrived. But with each passing day of not hearing from her son, worry began to gnaw at her. In a moment of desperation, she reached out to his friends on Facebook. Only one responded positively, revealing they'd been in contact with Jesse until September 29th. With each passing day bringing no further news, Jesse's mother filed a missing persons report on October 14th. In her search for answers, she also contacted embassies from Peru, the United States, and Canada for any help they could offer. The investigation into his disappearance was hindered by several factors. First, the owner of the hostel where Jesse had stayed denied that he had ever arrived. Additionally, muleteers who worked the trails often refused to speak to authorities, fearing they would be held responsible if he were found. Nevertheless, the investigation persisted, but ultimately proved futile as neither Jesse nor any of his gear was found. At this point, Jesse's parents decided to take matters into their own hands. They flew to Peru to walk the trail where their son was last seen and hired a private Israeli search and rescue company to aid in the search. They shockingly spent more than $1 million throughout the process, raised through an outpouring of community support via charitable donations and a GoFundMe page. Beyond searching for their son, Jesse's parents also offered rewards for any information that could lead to his discovery. First, they put out an offer of $10,000, then increased it to $30,000, and finally a whopping $500,000. Theories also swirled about Jesse's disappearance. His parents believed that their son may have been kidnapped for forced labor purposes by a cartel, which was the reason why they offered up the reward money. Another possibility was that Jesse had suffered acute altitude sickness during the hike, tried to find shelter, and then fell into a crevice. However, neither scenario has been confirmed by the authorities. In honor of Jesse, his father launched JesseProtected.com, a website dedicated to the prevention of disappearances, awareness, and support for people with missing loved ones. It was August 9, 2009, in Chicago, Illinois. David Gimmelfarb, a 28-year-old PhD student from the Adler School of Professional Psychology, eagerly awaited his vacation. He flew out of O'Hare Airport heading for Costa Rica. David, an experienced traveler and hiker, planned to explore the Rincón de la Vieja National Park and stayed at the Hotel Chachipilin in Liberia, Guanacaste Province. On August 10th, David emailed and spoke to his parents, mentioning his visit to the national park and promising daily calls. The next day, when his parents didn't hear from him, they grew worried. On August the 11th, they contacted the hotel. The following day, the hotel staff informed them that David's rented white Hyundai Tucson was found locked in the park's parking lot. The date and time stamp for admission to the park was August 10th. The park, spanning 35,000 acres of volcanic jungle terrain, made the search for David difficult. Despite an extensive search involving local officials, volunteers, the Red Cross, and 2 U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopters, no trace of David was found. His parents, Roma and Luda Gimmelfarb, traveled to Costa Rica on August 13th to assist with the investigation. David, known to be an experienced hiker and traveler, had previously gone skiing in Colorado and traveled alone to Israel. At the time of his disappearance, he lived in the Buena Park neighborhood of Chicago. The Highland Park, Illinois, police investigated his case as his parents lived there. The Charlie Project also profiled his case due to his American citizenship. David's cell phone and passport were found in his hotel room, but his orange, gray, and black North Face backpack was missing. It might have contained a water bottle, power bars, a camera, and a travel book on Costa Rica. He also had the keys to his apartment in Chicago, his rental car keys, his wallet, and a copy of his passport with him. Some witnesses reported seeing David at the hotel bar later that afternoon, while others said he left the hotel in his car and was not seen again. Several sightings of David were reported in Costa Rica. The most recent, in mid-February 2010, involved a man fitting David's description who walked into a Coast Guard station. The man, appearing disheveled with an overgrown beard and long hair, seemed dazed and confused. By the time law enforcement contacted David's parents, he had left. This sighting is considered the most credible. His family believes he is alive but possibly suffering from illness or amnesia. David's parents have been relentless in their search. They have spent a significant portion of their retirement fund trying to find him. Over the years, they faced challenges, including being cheated and extorted. After offering a $100,000 reward for information about David's disappearance, they received menacing calls from someone claiming David had been kidnapped. The caller even sent a dark photo of a man holding a current edition of a Costa Rican newspaper. Investigators later traced the call to Costa Rica's La Reforma prison. Roma and Luda Gimmelfarb have made annual trips to Costa Rica since David's disappearance, except for 1 year when Roma was recovering from surgery. They meet with the U.S. Embassy, Costa Rican authorities, and people with knowledge of the case. They hope to establish a foundation to help U.S. families searching for loved ones who have disappeared in Costa Rica and elsewhere. Their search has been particularly difficult because they don't speak Spanish and had never been to Costa Rica before David's disappearance. In their search for answers, David's parents have hired a private investigator. The investigator found no activity on David's credit cards after he went missing. The Costa Rican Judicial Investigation Organization handled the case but closed it in November 2009 as there was no evidence of foul play or a crime. One glimmer of hope came when a psychic contacted the U.S. Embassy, claiming to know where David's remains were. The psychic took U.S. Embassy staff to a river in Guanacaste, where they searched but found nothing. Another hopeful moment came when David's parents received a tip suggesting David might have received treatment at the National Psychiatric Hospital in Pavas. However, an OIJ representative found no one matching David's description at the facility. David's disappearance has left his family in perpetual uncertainty. They believe someone knows what happened to their son. They continue to offer a $100,000 reward for information leading to David's discovery and pledge to repeat their annual trip to Costa Rica until they are too old to travel. On Saturday, January 28th at around 1 p.m., Raul Jimenez went hiking with his two friends at the Parque Nacional da Chapada dos Veadeiros, a national park in Brazil. It was part of their plans for their vacation trip in the country, having traveled down from Florida several days earlier. However, as the trio's hike went on, the waterfall within the park suddenly picked up strength out of the blue. At the time, Raul and his friends were walking through the rocks when the water level increased. Within moments, it became a flash flood that rose to their shoulder height and subsequently swept them away downstream. Initially, all three seemed to survive the ordeal as they grabbed onto nearby rocks for safety. However, Raul noticed that his bag was floating away and decided to try to get it back. In the process, the water came crashing down some more and took him further downstream. Meanwhile, Raul's friends continued holding on to the rocks until rescuers arrived nearly 6 hours after the flash flood. Once the search and rescue team was informed of what happened to Raul, they began searching for him after everyone else was brought to safety. His sister and parents flew in from their home in Florida, while his friends back home held a vigil for him. As hours passed, the search intensified, but did not turn up anything. By the next day, it had become a national rescue mission that included firefighters, search dogs, drones, and air support. On day 4, after Raul first went missing, his body was found about a mile away from the Raizama waterfall, where he was hiking. It was then taken to the morgue, where he was officially declared dead. After news of his death was confirmed, some individuals who were associated with him shared touching tributes on social media. One in particular came from Ananda Lee, along with a photo of her and her husband with Jimenez at their 2020 wedding. Thank you for shining your light into this world, sharing your magic and your medicine wherever you went, Ananda Lee wrote on her Instagram page. Your smile lit up the room with the sweetest hugs and loving soul. You will forever be in our hearts, dear brother. I am lucky to have many special memories together, playing, praying, singing, being silly, loving life. Raul was eventually transported back home and buried by his family. To support his family, a GoFundMe campaign was also created, gathering over $33,000 out of its $250,000 goal.